The girl who carried voices. The call came from a number Marcus Holloway didn't recognize his daughter's voice, but wrong somehow. Tight with fear she'd never shown him before. "Daddy, something's wrong with the brakes." "I can't." Then static. Then nothing. He tried calling back 17 times. Straight to voicemail. That was 4 hours ago. Now he stood in his office on the 42nd floor of Holloway Tower in Manhattan, watching his phone like it might detonate, and a small girl with cornrows and a jacket 2 winters old was telling him his daughter was alive, and he needed to listen. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. The morning had started like any other Tuesday in March, gray sky pressing against glass. The city stretched below in concrete and exhaust. Marcus reviewing acquisition documents for a hospital chain in Newark. 53 years old, self-made, $2 billion in healthcare and real estate, divorced 8 years, 1 daughter. Imani, 22, senior at Columbia, pre-med, brilliant and careful, and everything he'd hoped to build through wealth, opportunity, safety, choice. She'd texted at 7, early lap. "Love you. Dinner Friday?" He'd replied, "Be safe. Love you too." Standard exchange. Routine. The kind of morning communication that meant nothing until it meant everything. The first call came at 10:47 a.m. Imani's number. But the voice was strange, his daughter's words, but the rhythm off, like someone reading a script badly. "Daddy, something's wrong with the brakes." "I can't." The line cut out mid-sentence. Marcus had called back immediately. Voicemail. Again. Voicemail. He'd called Columbia Security, her roommate, her boyfriend. Nobody had seen her since she'd left for class at 6:30 that morning. Her location services were off. She'd disabled them sophomore year. Privacy concerns, a fight he'd lost. His head of security, a former Secret Service agent named Thomas Webb, was already pulling traffic cameras, checking hospitals, doing everything protocol demanded. But nothing felt right. The call had been wrong. Staged. Marcus knew fear. He'd grown up in Bed-Stuy in the 80s, knew genuine panic from performance. That call was performance, which meant someone had his daughter, and they'd made her read those words, and they wanted him to think it was an accident. At 2:30 p.m., the girl arrived. Marcus's executive assistant tried to stop her, a child, maybe 11, in the lobby of Holloway Tower where visitors needed appointments and credentials. But the girl had slipped past the desk somehow, taken the express elevator, and now stood in the reception area outside Marcus's office with security guards on either side of her, and absolute determination in her eyes. "I need to see Mr. Holloway," she said, voice clear and unafraid despite the uniformed men flanking her. "It's about his daughter. It's urgent." Thomas Webb was there within 90 seconds. "How did you get up here?" "I asked the cleaning lady to badge me through. Told her my mom worked here." The girl spoke like someone used to solving problems creatively. "I need to talk to Mr. Holloway. His daughter called me. Gave me a message." Marcus emerged from his office, drawn by the commotion. The girl was small, thin in the way that came from inconsistent meals, her jacket worn but clean, her sneakers scuffed nearly white. Her hair was pulled back in neat cornrows, and her eyes, dark brown, alert, locked onto him with immediate recognition. "You're him," she said. "Imani's dad." Marcus felt the floor tilt slightly. "How do you know my daughter's name?" "She called me 3 hours ago. From a block number. She said she couldn't call you directly, that they were watching, but she remembered me and thought maybe I could help." The girl spoke quickly, urgently, words tumbling over each other. "She said to tell you the break call was fake. She's okay right now, but you need to find her fast." And she said. The girl paused, pulling a crumpled receipt from her pocket with numbers written in pen. "She said to check the lake house. The one. From when you were married. She said you'd know which one." The lake house. Marcus hadn't been there in 7 years, a property in the Catskills he'd bought during the marriage, sold after the divorce, or thought he'd sold. But his ex-wife Diane had handled that sale through her attorney. Had it actually closed? Had Diane kept access somehow? "Who are you?" Marcus asked, kneeling to the girl's eye level. "How does my daughter know you?" "I'm Avery. Avery Chun. I met Imani 6 months ago at the Riverside Community Center. She volunteers there, teaching kids math. I'm one of the kids." Avery's voice was steady despite the security presence. "She was nice to me. Really nice, not fake nice. She brought me books and helped me with my homework and talked to me like I was a person. When she called today, I recognized her voice immediately. even though she was whispering and scared. Why would she call you and not me? She said they had her phone, were using it to send fake messages, making everything look normal so you wouldn't panic yet. But they didn't know about me. They didn't know she'd given me her number in case I ever needed help. Avery's jaw was set, her small shoulders squared. She said they wanted something from you. Information or money or something. And they were going to call tomorrow with demands. But she found a phone they didn't know about and had maybe 2 minutes to use it. And she chose to call me because she knew I'd find you and tell you the truth. Marcus felt his chest constrict. What exactly did she say about the lake house? She said to check there first. That she heard someone say something about the old property and upstate, and she thinks that's where they're taking her. She said you needed to know before they moved her somewhere else. Avery thrust the receipt forward. These are the numbers she gave me. She said you'd understand. Marcus took the paper. The numbers were coordinates, latitude and longitude. He pulled out his phone, entered them into maps. The location appeared, a point in the Catskills, near Phoenicia, exactly where the lake house sat among 30 wooded acres. How did you find me? Marcus asked. I took the subway. Then I walked. Then I told people I was your daughter's friend, and it was an emergency. Avery's voice cracked slightly for the first time. I promised her I'd find you. She was so scared but trying to be brave. I had to keep my promise. Marcus stood, his mind already moving through logistics. Thomas, get our team mobilized. Catskills, the old property, full tactical. Notify the state police, but tell them to hold back. If this is a kidnapping, we can't risk spooking them. He turned to Avery. You're coming with us. I need you to tell me everything she said, every word you remember, exactly as she said it. Okay. Avery nodded, then added quietly. She's really nice, Mr. Holloway. Imani. She's the first person who ever made me feel like I mattered. We have to help her. We will, Marcus said. And he meant it with every molecule of his being. Because of you, we will. The helicopter lifted from the Holloway Tower rooftop at 3:45 p.m., Marcus and Thomas Webb and Avery strapped into seats, the city falling away beneath them in geometric gray. Avery had never been in a helicopter before. She gripped the armrests with white knuckles, but said nothing, eyes fixed forward with the same determination she'd shown in the office. During the flight, Marcus extracted every detail. Avery recounted the phone call with near-perfect recall. Imani's whispered urgency, the background sounds, voices, male, 2 distinct speakers, one with an accent Avery thought might be Eastern European. Imani had maybe 90 seconds on the phone. She'd used them efficiently, giving Avery the coordinates, the warning about the fake break story, the timeline. They're moving me tomorrow, probably out of state. Did she say why they took her? Marcus asked over the headset. She said she heard them talking. Something about you owing someone money. But she said that was wrong, that you don't owe anyone anything. She thinks they're confused or lying. Avery's voice came through small but clear. She said to tell you she loves you, and she's sorry she disabled her location services. Marcus felt his throat tighten. Tell me about the community center. How long has she been volunteering? Since September. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening. She helps kids with homework, mostly math and science. Some of the volunteers are just doing it for college applications, but Imani was different. She cared. Avery paused. She told me once that her dad, you, grew up without money, and that's why he wanted to make sure other people had chances. She said helping people was the whole point of being successful. Marcus closed his eyes briefly. He'd said those exact words to Imani years ago, hadn't known she'd internalized them so completely. How did you know how to find me? The tower, my office. Imani showed me pictures once on her phone. She was proud of you, and I'm good at figuring things out. You have to be, when you're on your own a lot. Avery's matter-of-factness about her circumstances was harder to hear than complaint would have been. Where are your parents, Avery? Mom works 2 jobs. She's usually gone 6 a.m. to midnight. I don't have a dad, or I do, but I don't know him. She said it without self-pity. I stay with my grandmother sometimes, but she's in Queens, and that's far from my school. Mostly I'm okay by myself. I'm good at it. The helicopter descended toward a clearing 2 miles from the lake house. Close enough for quick access, far enough to avoid detection. State police were already staged at a distance, coordinating with Thomas's team. The plan was reconnaissance first, thermal imaging, visual confirmation of occupants, then tactical entry if Imani was confirmed inside. on the ground. Marcus wanted to move immediately, but Thomas held him back with professional firmness. Sir, you're the asset they want. If they see you, the situation changes. Let us confirm she's there first. Marcus knew he was right. He watched through binoculars as Thomas's team, for operators in tactical gear, moved through the woods toward the property with practiced silence. Avery stood beside him, shivering slightly in her thin jacket. Marcus removed his coat, draped it over her shoulders. She pulled it tight without comment, still watching the tree line where the team had disappeared. 20 minutes felt like hours. Then Thomas's voice crackled through the radio. Visual confirmation. Subject matching description. Female, early 20s, visible in second-floor window. 2 hostels confirmed downstairs. Thermal shows no other occupants. Advising immediate tactical entry. Do it, Marcus said. What happened next took 90 seconds, but would replay in Marcus's memory in fractured slow motion forever. The team breaching the front and rear doors simultaneously, flashbangs, shouted commands. The sharp crack of a single gunshot, then silence. Then Thomas's voice again, steady, subject secure. Hostiles in custody. 1 discharged. Weapon, no injuries. Scene is safe. Marcus was moving before Thomas finished the sentence. Avery running beside him. Both of them crashing through underbrush toward the lake house that materialized between bare trees, gray cedar shingles. A structure Marcus hadn't seen in nearly a decade, now surrounded by state police vehicles and tactical operators. Imani emerged from the front door wrapped in a blanket, a paramedic on either side, and when she saw Marcus, she broke free and ran to him, and he caught her, and for a long moment the world contained nothing but his daughter alive and whole and safe in his arms. Dad, she gasped against his shoulder. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have told you where I was going. You're safe. You're safe now. Marcus held her tighter, feeling her shake with residual fear and shock. You did exactly right. Calling Avery was brilliant. You saved yourself. Avery. Imani pulled back, searching the scene, and her eyes found the small girl standing nearby in Marcus's enormous coat, watching with relief and exhaustion written across her face. Avery. You found him. You actually found him. Imani crossed to her in 3 steps and knelt, pulling Avery into a fierce hug. Thank you. Thank you for being brave. For keeping your promise. You said you needed help, Avery said simply. So I helped. The paramedics insisted on checking Imani despite her protests, dehydration, minor bruising on her wrist from zip ties, but otherwise unharmed. The kidnappers, Thomas explained, were mercenaries hired by a former business partner of Marcus's who'd lost money in a deal years ago and blamed Marcus for the failure. Delusional vengeance, poor planning, and now federal charges that would ensure neither man saw freedom for decades. As the scene settled into the controlled chaos of law enforcement procedure, Marcus sat on the porch steps with Imani on one side and Avery on the other, emergency lights painting everything in blue and red pulses. How did they grab you? Marcus asked quietly. Parking garage at Columbia. They were waiting by my car, said they were campus security investigating break-ins. I was stupid enough to follow them to file a report. Imani's voice was bitter with self-recrimination. They had a van. Chloroform, I think, or something similar. I woke up here. The phone call to me. They made me do it. Scripted. Said if I didn't sound natural, they'd hurt other students. The break story was supposed to make you think I'd died in an accident by the time before you realized it was kidnapping. She paused. But they didn't know about the old landline in the upstairs bedroom. The one we used to use before cell service got better up here. It still works. I found it in a drawer, and I had maybe 2 minutes while they were arguing downstairs about ransom amounts. And you called Avery. I called the person I knew would move heaven and earth to help, who was small enough and smart enough and brave enough to reach you when I couldn't. Imani squeezed Avery's hand. I knew she'd find a way. Avery ducked her head, embarrassed by the praise. I just took the subway. You took the subway across the city, talked your way into a secured building, convinced security to let you see one of the most protected men in New York, and delivered a message that saved my life. Imani corrected gently. That's not just anything. As the evening deepened and procedures wound down, Thomas approached with news. They'd need statements from everyone, but that could happen tomorrow. For now, they were free to go. Marcus had already arranged for them to stay at a hotel in nearby Kingston, Returning to the city tonight felt impossible. In the hotel room hours later, a suite Marcus had booked with adjoining rooms, Avery stood at the window looking out at the Catskill darkness. She'd showered and changed into clothes the hotel had provided, her small frame swimming in an adult-sized t-shirt. Imani sat on the couch, finally relaxed after the paramedics' clearance and her own shower, and Marcus was on the phone coordinating with attorneys. When he finished, he found Avery still at the window. "You okay?" She nodded without turning. "Just thinking." "About what?" "About how Imani's really safe now. How you came for her so fast. How families do that. They move heaven and earth for each other." She turned to face him, eyes serious beyond her. "Years. My mom loves me, but she's never there. Not because she doesn't care, but because she can't be. She's just trying to survive." Marcus felt something shift in his chest. "Where will you go after tonight? Back to your grandmother's?" "Probably. Or maybe I'll stay at the center. They have cots sometimes." Spoken like logistics, not tragedy. "No," Marcus said, the decision forming as he spoke. "You'll come stay with us. With me and Imani. Temporarily at first, while we figure things out properly, but you're not going back to sleeping on cots or being alone 14 hours a day." Avery's eyes widened. "You don't have to do that." "I know I don't have to. I want to." He glanced at Imani, who was watching from the couch with tears streaming down her face and an enormous smile. "We both do. You saved my daughter's life today. But more than that, you're exactly the kind of person I want in our family, brave and clever and good. So if you're willing, we're going to talk to your mom and work something out. Maybe legal guardianship, maybe just being there to help more, but you're not going to be alone anymore. That's over now." Avery stared at him for a long moment, then at Imani, then back at Marcus. When she spoke, her voice was very small. "Really? Really?" Imani said, crossing to them and wrapping both of them in a hug. "Welcome to the family, Avery. Official or unofficial, you're stuck with us now." Avery buried her face in Imani's shoulder and finally let herself cry, not from fear or pain, but from relief and overwhelming gratitude and the sudden, shocking recognition that she wasn't alone anymore. That she'd been brave one time, had kept one promise, and had found something she'd stopped believing existed. People who saw her, who valued her, who would move heaven and earth for her too. Outside, the Catskills stretched into darkness, vast and indifferent. But inside that hotel room, three people who'd saved each other held on tight, and the world was smaller and warmer and infinitely more possible than it had been that morning. 6 months later, Marcus stood in the kitchen of his Tribeca penthouse, 3 bedrooms, river views, more space than one man needed, but exactly right for 3 people, and watched Avery and Imani debate the proper ratio of chocolate chips to pancake batter with the intensity of scholars defending dissertations. "More is not always better," Imani argued, wielding a spatula like a pointer. "You need structural integrity. Too many chips and they'll fall apart." "But the whole point is chocolate," Avery countered, adding another handful to the bowl. "If I wanted structural integrity, I'd eat toast." Marcus smiled and said nothing, just poured orange juice and marveled quietly at how completely his life had rearranged itself. The legal arrangements had taken months. Conversations with Avery's mother Chinwei, who'd wept with relief and gratitude when Marcus offered support instead of judgment, who'd admitted she was drowning and terrified but hadn't known how to ask for help. They'd worked out a solution. Chinwei kept custody, but Marcus provided housing. A 2-bedroom apartment in his building, rent-free, with flexible hours at a job he'd arranged through his network. She saw Avery every day now, had dinner with them most nights, but Avery technically lived with Marcus during the week and her mother on weekends, a hybrid arrangement that gave the girl stability without severing family bonds. "It's not about saving her from you," Marcus had told Chinwei during one of their early conversations. "It's about giving both of you breathing room. You're a good mother in impossible circumstances. Let's change the circumstances." The gratitude in her eyes had been almost unbearable to witness. Avery had transformed in those months, not in personality, but in ease. She still possessed that watchful intelligence, that habit of solving problems creatively, but her shoulders had unknotted. She smiled more. She'd gained weight, finally growing into the angles of her face. She was thriving at her new school, a private academy Marcus had enrolled her in with full scholarship and tutoring support. Her teachers said she was remarkably bright, that given opportunity, she could go anywhere, do anything. Imani had healed too, though the kidnapping left shadows. She'd taken the spring semester off from Columbia, working through trauma with a therapist Marcus had found, a woman who specialized in PTSD and didn't coddle or catastrophize. By summer, Imani was back in classes, pre-med track still intact, but changed in subtle ways. More careful, yes, but also more purposeful. She'd expanded her volunteering, started a nonprofit focused on educational access for underserved kids, and hired Avery as her unofficial youth consultant. A role Avery took absurdly seriously, showing up to planning meetings with handwritten notes and suggestions. Marcus had changed too. He'd stepped back further from day-to-day operations at Holloway Industries, delegating aggressively and trusting his team. He'd started a foundation focused on family stability, housing assistance, childcare support, the structural interventions that might prevent other kids from growing up the way Avery had. Brilliant and resourceful, but fundamentally alone. Thomas had suggested a security detail for Imani, but she'd refused. Compromise position was a panic button she wore as a bracelet and quarterly self-defense training. Marcus hated the necessity, but respected her agency. "Dad, you're zoning out again," Imani called from the stove. "That's your wistful face. You're having feelings." "I'm allowed to have feelings," Marcus protested, returning to the present. "I'm watching my daughters make breakfast together. It's documentary worthy." "We're not doing this for cameras," Avery said, but she was grinning. She still struggled sometimes with the word daughter, not because she didn't want it, but because she feared claiming it too loudly might make it disappear. Marcus and Imani were working on that, reinforcing permanence through consistency and explicit reassurance. They ate breakfast together at the kitchen island, a Saturday ritual that had developed organically, the three of them lingering over food and coffee and the easy silence of people comfortable in each other's presence. Shunwei would join them later for a matinee. They've fallen into a pattern of group outings that allowed Avery's mother to be present without the weight of sole responsibility. "I have something to tell you both," Imani said as they were clearing plates. She spoke with the careful tone of someone delivering news they're nervous about. "I've been thinking about med school, about what kind of doctor I want to be." "Okay," Marcus said neutrally. "I think I want to do community medicine. Family practice in underserved areas. Not the prestige specialties, not the big money. Just helping people who slip through the cracks. People who need someone to see them." She glanced at Avery. "Someone taught me that the whole point of success is using it to help others. I want to actually do that, not just talk about it." Marcus felt pride surge through his chest, overwhelming and fierce. "I think that's exactly right. I think you'll be extraordinary at it. You're not disappointed? That I'm not aiming for neurosurgery or whatever? Imani, I'm proud of you every single day. The specialty you choose doesn't change that. Your reasons for choosing it are what matter, and your reasons are good." He paused. "Also, the world needs more doctors who give a damn about people who can't pay $500 for a consultation. Be that doctor." Avery had been quiet during this exchange, but now she spoke up. "Can I do something like that too? When I'm older? Like, help kids the way Imani helped me." "You can do anything you want," Marcus said. "Lawyer, doctor, engineer, teacher, artist, whatever calls to you. We'll make sure you have the support to pursue it. That's the promise. Not pressure, not expectations, just options and backing. What if I want to do what you do? Business stuff? Then we'll get you an MBA, and you can take over Holloway Industries and run it better than I ever did." Marcus grinned. "Fair warning. It's a lot of meetings and people pretending to agree with you while planning to do the opposite." "Sounds fun," Avery said seriously. "I'm good at knowing when people are lying." "Yes, you are. And that's a valuable skill in business and in life." Marcus reached across the island and squeezed her hand. "Whatever you choose, you're going to be amazing. You've already proven you're brave and smart and resourceful. Everything else is just details." Later that afternoon, after the movie and lunch and Shunwei's departure back to her apartment, Marcus found himself on the penthouse terrace with Imani, looking out over the Hudson River as afternoon light turned everything gold and amber. Avery was inside, video calling with a friend from school, her laughter audible through the glass doors. "Thank you," Imani said quietly. "For what?" "For taking this seriously." "Avery." Not just as charity or obligation, but as real family. She leaned against the railing, wind catching her hair. Some people would have written a check and felt good about themselves. You changed her whole life. She earned it, Marcus said simply. She saved you. And beyond that, she deserves better than the hand she was dealt. If I can provide that, why wouldn't I? Because most people wouldn't. Most people would feel like they'd done enough with a donation or a scholarship fund. Imani turned to face him. You gave her family. That's not something you can put a price on. Marcus thought about that cold March afternoon when a small girl had appeared in his office with determination in her eyes and his daughter's coordinates written on a crumpled receipt. How easily he could have dismissed her, had her removed by security, missed the only chance to find Imani before it was too late. How one moment of listening, of believing, had changed 3 lives irrevocably. You know what's strange? He said. I built everything in my life on the idea that success meant security, that money was protection. Then the worst thing happened. You were taken, and money didn't matter at all. A brave 11-year-old girl mattered. Choosing to listen mattered. Being the kind of person worth reaching mattered. He paused. Avery gave me more than Imani's location that day. She reminded me what actually has value, which is showing up, being present, using whatever you have to help people who need it. The things you can't put on a balance sheet, but that determine whether your life meant anything. Marcus smiled. Your mother used to say I was too focused on building empires instead of building relationships. She was right. I just needed to almost lose you to understand it. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the river traffic and the city beyond. Inside, Avery's laughter rang out again, bright and unself-conscious, the sound of a child who knew she was safe and loved and valued. Shenwei would return for dinner. They'd cook together, all 4 of them, and the kitchen would be chaotic and warm and exactly what family was supposed to be. Marcus's phone buzzed, a message from Thomas with an update about the kidnapper's sentencing hearing. Federal charges, decades in prison, no chance of early release. Justice served, though the word felt inadequate for what they'd tried to take. But they'd failed. The money was here, whole and safe. Avery was thriving. And Marcus had learned what mattered before it was too late to matter. Dad, Imani's voice pulled him from his thoughts. Yeah. I'm glad Avery called you that day. I'm glad she knew you'd listen. I'm glad I volunteered at that center and met her and gave her my number, just in case. She smiled. I'm glad we're all here now, together. It's good. This life. It's really good. It is, Marcus agreed. And he meant it with every fiber of his being. This strange, improvised family they'd built from crisis and courage and the simple act of showing up for each other. It wasn't the life he'd planned. It was better. It was real. As evening settled over Manhattan, the 3 of them gathered in the kitchen again. Marcus and Imani teaching Avery to make stir-fry. Shenwei arriving with flowers and updates about her day. All of them talking over each other and laughing and belonging. Outside, the city churned on, indifferent to their small miracle. But inside those walls, in that warm, bright space, for people who'd found each other at exactly the right moment built something that would last. Not empire, not fortune, but family chosen and earned and fiercely protected. Sometimes salvation came in forms you never expected, small and determined, wearing a jacket 2 winters old, carrying a message that changed everything. And if you were wise enough to listen, brave enough to believe, you got to keep that gift forever. Marcus had listened. He had believed. And now, surrounded by laughter and light and love in all its imperfect forms, he understood exactly how lucky that made him. The story could have ended in tragedy. A call unheeded, a girl dismissed, a daughter lost. But in this version, this one precious version, everyone had been brave enough to trust that kindness mattered, that showing up mattered, that one person's courage could change the course of 3 lives. And in the end, that was enough. That was everything.